Lisa, do you have another agenda?
Hi, this is Carol Garrett, and I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order since our chairman and vice chairman cannot be here today, and ask that you elect a chairman pro tem. Somebody would make a motion, please.
I move that we elect Sue Hooper as our chair pro temp for the proceedings for today's meeting. She's served as the vice chair for the last cycle, so that will be appropriate.
I second that motion. And if we could vote?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll carry on. So you have in your packet the minutes of the meeting, previous meeting, August 28th, 2014. Are there any corrections?
I move for approval as submitted.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Minutes are approved. Okay, item number 3, receive the MAPS 3 revenue and expenditure report ending August 31st, 2014, and MAPS 3 budget and obligation report as of September 15th, 2014.
Madam Chairman, you have in your packet, as you said, the revenue and expenditure report for the period ending August 31st, 2014. On the revenue side for the month, there's $9,340,423. For the fiscal year, there's $18,581,932. For total program, on the revenue side, $435,325,291. On the expenditure side, for the month, there's $664,093. And you can see for each of the individual subcommittees there, the expenditures this month were administration fees, A&E fees, testing fees, and construction. And the river, the 393, the predominant amount is construction there at the river. And for the fiscal year, we have $864,921 and total expenditures of $63,833,132. Then also in your packet, you have the budget and obligations report for the period ending September 15, 2014. Be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Questions from the board?
I move that we receive the report.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. The report is received. Number 4, recommend resolution approving change order number 1 for MAPS 3 Oklahoma River Phase 3 Whitewater Facility, Oklahoma River, decrease of $4,444.56, project M3-R004/WC-0817/SC-0912.
Thank you. If you recall, we awarded the contract last month, or this body recommended the award of the contract to council with the understanding that there would be value engineering items on this project, and that's what you have before you today is 68 items in a change order that are value engineer items. As I told the subcommittee that right now, because of the change order, you are to consider these out, but that doesn't mean that in the future, if budget allows, that we can add some of these items back in. Like I said, there's 68 items. At the board's discretion, we can answer individually. The consultant is here prepared to go through each of these 68 items individually if you want, or if you have one that is of interest, we can go through that, so however you desire to do that.
River Committee, can you help us?
We don't want to take anything away out of our budget, but we know we have to. And I think there's a very conscientious effort to make sure that we don't take out things that we'll have to worry about later that can't be fixed. We are leaving it up to the expertise of the people making the changes, the staff, ADG, our people that are building it, and hoping that they will choose the right things, the things that will take us to where we want to be with this wonderful project. So we voted unanimously to accept it and trust the people that we've put in that position. So.
Further discussion?
Well, I'll just comment, I guess, that the resolution I think we passed last week, and what we asked council to do was to borrow $3.2 million from excess revenues while we did this process and try to see if we could make some trimming to the budget. And so if the $4 million was kind of a commitment, and we've done that, and so we're essentially paying back that $3.2 million that we asked the council to loan us. So. Now, not to say that, to finish up the project later on, we might come back and ask for some more help on it, because there are some fairly draconian cuts in here in some areas that things we'd really like to see in there. But for right now, we've got it back within budget, and we'll move forward at that rate.
I guess I'd like to comment, along with Mike's comments, that we really did the committee made a commitment that we would come back and take a really hard look at this and be able to bring the project back within budget, which has been accomplished through this. We've talked about two different numbers. We brought back $4 million, a little more than $4 million in changes. We were over budget by about 3.2, so this $4 million includes an $800,000 contingency, if you will, as we move forward, which I think is important for people to know. And I also, I think that these 68 items aren't necessarily in priority order. They do total the dollars we needed to achieve. There probably are some additional savings as we dig a little bit deeper. So David's comment that we could bring some of these things back, I think, is also, very important. That if we, I think early on we talked about bridges, perhaps, and this list does not include a change from custom design bridges to perhaps prefab bridges. We just didn't have time. There wasn't enough time to do that. But as we dig deeper into some of the things where there could possibly be substitutions, we'll be able to bring back some additional change orders, and then, hopefully look at some of these items that are critical. But as Dee suggested, we're trying as hard as possible not to impact any infrastructure or any things that would be very difficult to come back and do at a later date. So, as an example, I think the kayak building was eliminated in this piece. It's the belief of the designer of the project, I think, and the subcommittee that kayak building is really critical. But we're going to go ahead and do everything subsurface. We're going to put in the, stub the electricity, water, all the things that would be needed, so that at a point in time, if we can come back, we can add the building without too much difficulty. Would it be possible for this list to be put in a priority order by the subcommittee at future meetings, so that as monies are available or things can be added in? Obviously, I look at things like the kayak building, an air purification system, just being around other water parks and don't always like the odor. I think about the personnel working there. Their lockers. I know it's small, but some of these things, it seems like if a priority could be made, now that we've identified the 68, then further move that the subcommittee go back and prioritize those things along with our consultant, so that as we can add things back in, we know which are most important.
We did talk about putting together a schedule, because priority is somewhat subjective. One person's priority might not meet another's, but what we are going to do is put together a schedule that would show us at what point in the project that something would have to be decided upon, whether to add it back or not, whether we could at that point or not. So we are looking at that.
Kim, the way I looked at that is to try not to do anything fatal, if we possibly can avoid it. So this timeline will tell us, we're about to be at a place where, this would be a make it or break it kind of decision. Makes a lot of common sense. I think that probably is the best way to go, because so many of these things are small, but at the end of the day, they add up to $4 million. It's a lot of money.
Item number 1, the removal of the Lincoln Boulevard connector would mean there's no access from Lincoln Boulevard. Am I understanding that correctly?
I believe so. I'd like to ask Jeffrey Guston to come up and address that. He's the consultant with S2O on that.
The scope of cut number one essentially would be the asphalt and curb and gutter associated with Lincoln Boulevard. The contractor is doing the grading, the mass grading for that as a construction entrance, so they will be using that as well as 6th Street for a secondary entrance. The project essentially will be the rough grade of that down to the intersection of Phillips and 5th Street, and then the curb and gutter and the asphalt will come at a later date. Yes.
Other questions? Yes.
I understand the committee's view, and I agree that to the very greatest extent, we have to rely on the expertise of the designers in terms of what we can cut and what we can't. I guess I just wanted to get on the record before this body, are we satisfied? There are a number of changes where we are substituting one product for another, and I obviously have no idea, the quality of one versus the other or why that selection is made, but I just wanted to make sure that this body was comfortable that those changes are not sacrificing quality for something that, meets the budget, but 5 years down the road we're going to have a problem because something has failed because we've gone to a less expensive product of some kind. And I know there isn't any way that we can go through item by item and get any kind of explanation, but I'm asking the general question so we have it on the record here that we're satisfied that the changes are not jeopardizing the quality of the project.
The approach we took to that was we looked at varying substitutions. Let's consider what we spec'd at a B+ level. We did not consider anything in the C range. It was a B level. So we looked at various substitutions. We only took stuff that had no future impact on operations. It was still a comparable product.
Okay. I assume that to be the case, but just wanted to put that question on the table.
We also have Mike Knopp over here, and Mike wants everything to be perfect as it should be. But so we've got him as our watchdog to kind of help make those decisions and recommend what would be best.
Okay, good.
And I also think we tried, and Jeffrey, maybe correct me if I'm right, but the attempt was made to not have any impact on the course.
The overall impact was, the overall goal was to not impact the operation of the entire facility, course primarily, and then the exterior architecture of the site, the visual quality of the site. So you saw a lot of the cuts and the substitutions were what I would call gingerbread, probably not the appropriate term, but reducing a bench, reducing a substitution of a product. It could be scaled back in the future. As Ms. Slater indicated, trying not to cut out any infrastructure for future build-in of any of the products that we are putting on the table. So the integrity of the operation was our foremost.
We also said that there would be possibly some opportunities for corporate sponsorships of some seating or whatever, which will help.
That's true, and I know Mike is working on a couple different programs out there, small sponsorship to naming rights, and they're all going to take time, but the way we approach taking out some of these elements, for example, the benches or the seating and stuff like that, it's an easy item for someone to come in and put their name on it by buying a linear foot or seat. You've seen it in stadiums and whatnot, so I think it's an approach he can take and certainly sell.
I think it's also, should be noted, there's a few items that are cut in here that obviously have to be provided for the system to operate. Furniture and fixtures, point-of-sale equipment, they're going to have to be there. So if we're unable to fund those, that's, I understand, would fall to the operator. And of course, that would affect probably the operating contract that's eventually negotiated. I mean, if they have to provide that stuff, then obviously they're going to want a bigger piece of the action later on. So that's all part of something that'll have to be worked out too.
I have one final question. If we recommend this resolution today, and then at some point in time we come back with a resolution to add things, which actually takes it back over budget again, would we be precluded to vote those things back in because of what we voted today?
There's two questions there. Are you concerned about the legal and the construction limits, or are you talking about the MAPS budget issues?
I guess it would have to be answered from both sides.
Well, we always have up to 10% in change order limits legally as far as the project. And that's one reason why we took this change order beyond where we were actually over budget, so that we would have some more contingency funds. The other question would be something that would have to be answered in the future, I think, by this board and by City Council, as far as additional funding.
But we're not precluded to ask by that.
I don't think so.
Okay.
So just as we asked last month to borrow money or to take money from the excess collections, at that point in time, we could request those funds again.
I think that's possible.
I understand.
Any other discussion?
I move that we pass this resolution.
Further discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. The resolution has been approved.
The committee did a fantastic job working on this. This was really hard to do.
A lot of due diligence there.
And it just, it's a tough thing to have to cut important things out of your budget. And a lot of staff time, a lot of our consultants' time, all of our consultants' time went into, fulfilling the commitment that we made to value engineer this. So everybody deserves a real pat on the back for accomplishing a goal in a very quick period of time.
That's right. I'm glad you mentioned that. I do want to thank staff and the consultant and Downey Contracting for their cooperation in this.
Item number 5, recommend resolution approving MAPS 3 convention site evaluation, facility programming, and conceptual design report project M3-C003.
If you recall, we engaged Populous to start doing conceptual design and conceptual plans because of the concern with the interaction with the other projects, with the park being across the street, the streetcar, and then all the development that's going on. We engaged them early. So what you have in front of you is that conceptual validation of their work. And right after we get through this point, I expect in the next month, we will have a contract with them to start actual design of the convention center. So we have Todd Both here today from Populous. I'd like to invite him up to the podium and give you a presentation on this concept validation.
Great. Good morning. It's good to see you all again. And thank you for the opportunity. So we've spent a lot of time over the last few months trying to make sure that the concept was addressing all the needs of the city and the marketplace and all that. So I'm going to present to you the concept plan today, and I need to remind you all that this is not design. It's very much conceptual diagrammatic work that gives us the basis for going forward with design. So with that, we were charged with essentially trying to find the right location on the site for the convention center, to look at the configuration of the convention center on the site, how it should be located on the site, to also determine where the convention hotel should be located as part of the convention experience, and also to create cost estimates based on the programmatic requirements. So I wanted to just quickly talk to you about the process that we've gone through, and I'll do this as quickly as I can. We don't need to belabor it, but it's been very thorough, and the due diligence has been good. We started out with research. We looked at a variety of elements that would help us understand the site better, as well as understand the program and how that building fits on the site. Then we went into urban analysis, which really comes to an understanding of where it should be located on the site and how it should be configured. We studied 3 different modes or models. One is putting the exhibit hall below ground. Because the exhibit hall is so large, it kind of drives the configuration of the convention center. So below ground, at grade or above ground, and then above the street level. So we looked at all 3 of those, and through all of our work, we studied 30 or 40 different options. We determined that the best approach was on this site, in such an urban setting, was to put the exhibit hall below ground and to put the meeting space, ballroom space above ground. Then we looked at a variety of different configurations of how many levels, and of course that all has to do with cost considerations, and it's a really kind of interesting equation to deal with, but came up with several 3 or 4 options that we considered further. We costed those, went through an iterative process, and today we're at a point where we're going to show you a concept and also another expanded concept based on some communication that we had with the subcommittee. And our hope is that you will ask a lot of questions, because this is really important that you get the answers that you need and you have and you're satisfied. So quickly, we went through a stakeholder process. We talked to elected officials, city staff, business and tourism folks, and also your customers and the operator in great depth and length. And that kind of information helped inform us about what was appropriate for Oklahoma City. We also developed a number of design principles, and I'm not going to read these in detail, but there are a few in there that I think are really important that go back to some of the things that the stakeholder group told us. One was that we want to have park connections. We want to make sure that this site connects to the Myriad Garden as well as to the new park to the south, that you want to make sure that you don't have the same kind of situation that you have at Cox Center with a mega block with a building that's impenetrable, basically. And so we looked at ways to connect through and around the site, and that was really important. We looked a lot at development opportunities on and around the site, and of course the last time I was before you, we were presenting the concept district plan, so we could look at how we could develop around the site, and that's been very important too. So, and then a couple more that are really critical, and that's creating a 360-degree building so that your pedestrians can feel free to move around the buildings and through that site. And finally, to create a great experience, not just for your guests that come, but also for your community so that they feel welcome on that site. And it's really important that we think of it that way. So those were the things that have been driving us from the start, and we've honored those throughout the process. So I want to talk about the validation of the concept. This is the concept we presented to the subcommittee a couple months ago, and then we received their comments, and quickly go through that. What you have in front of you now is just a chart of numbers, and I'll describe that briefly. So the Cox Center today is roughly 100,000 square feet of exhibit space, which is Class B exhibit space when you look at what the market defines that as. And what we're proposing in this option is 160,000 net square feet of Class A exhibit space. You can see the meeting and ballroom space. We're adding more of that as well for a total rentable area of 235,000 square feet. That falls at the lower level of what the MAPS implementation plan described as being needed, and certainly so it's within the plan. And also, it's roughly 470,000 square feet, which was also within the plan parameters. So quickly, let's talk about the configuration. What you see before you right now is the site plan. On the north is Reno. On the south is the Boulevard. Clear to the east is Robinson. Just west of the solid red line is Hudson, and in the middle is the Harvey Spine. And what's shown in gray at the top left corner is the convention center, which is the meeting and ballroom space. The solid red line indicates the exhibit space below ground, and the dotted red line shows potential future expansion opportunities from 160 to 200 to 300 to 330,000. So one of the things that's most critical in planning a convention center is looking for future expansion opportunities, and this allows you to more than double your size of your exhibit space. And then to the east is the location for the future hotel. We spent a lot of time looking at different locations and determined for synergy purposes that this is the best place for the hotel. And then in the southwest corner is the plot for future development, and of course that was outlined in the district plan that we completed. So the actual exhibit floor plan is shown here, 160,000 square feet, which would roughly be divided into 2 halls, and then the lower level loading docks that support that. They're below ground with a ramp that comes off of Robinson, and then a mezzanine level that connects the main floor to the lower level exhibit hall, And then at the main level is 40,000 square feet of meeting space with a new entrance and all the pre-function area on Robinson. There's also an open lawn area, as you can see, and there's an east-west connection through the site as well as a north-south, which we said was one of the most important principles. There's a mechanical mezzanine above that, and then the ballroom sits on top of that, which allows some really nice views to the downtown area, as well as the lawn, and also from the Harvey Spine into the Myriad Gardens and also the park. So that will be kind of your wonderful space on the site for entertaining your guests and also your community. And the roof plan. And then I'm showing you a couple building sections here, not to get into the detail, but just to show you the configuration so you can see that the exhibit hall is below ground. And it's shown in yellow, and then in green the meeting space above that at ground level, and the ballroom space in maroon, again looking into the city and also into the parks. And that occurs in both directions.
Todd, could I ask a question on that
Sure.
slide? Just clarification for the board here of how much, what are we talking depth-wise here?
So
below ground.
Yeah, so the exhibit hall, pretty typical state-of-the-art standard kind of depth for an exhibit hall. The height is 35 feet, and we're showing 15 feet of structure on top of that, so 50 feet.
Okay.
And that's pretty much what we did in Phoenix as well, the same kind of configuration. I think theirs was 36 feet, but yeah, it's fairly
I think
standard.
it's an important concept to keep in mind because right now we don't have that 35 feet. So that kind of precludes who we market to, and exhibitors want that. The taller, the greater, the bigger, the better. But also keep that in mind because as we go through this conversation now, getting those loading trucks down to that spot, which is underground, is also an important point.
Yep, very good. Thanks for mentioning that. So now on to the expanded concept, and I'll show you the numbers first, and then I'll kind of give you the rationale behind this concept. So now you see a comparison between the Cox Center, the concept I just showed you, and the expanded concept. And so in this one, the primary difference is that we're moving from 160,000 square feet of net rentable exhibit space to 200,000. We have shifted the square footage of meeting space, ballroom space a little bit, but it's still in total the same amount of space, for a total of 275,000 square feet of net rentable and a total of 550,000 gross square feet. And of course, what that gives you is 40,000 more feet that you can actually gather revenue from. It also requires another 40,000 square feet of support space for front of house and back of house. But again, this falls within the range of program that was outlined in the implementation plan. So I'll quickly take you through the, I'm sorry, let me tell you why. There's a number of things that were commented on in the subcommittee meeting, and we took that to heart and we came back with some modifications. And of course, those have some implications as well. There was some concern about the location of the truck ramp entrance on the boulevard, and so we looked at other places to do that. One was on Hudson, another one was on Walker. This plan shows the truck dock entrance coming off of Walker. And then, of course, the second one was the mix of square footage, which I just went through on the diagram, on the chart. And then the third one is the exhibit hall built under Hudson. The whole notion there was to be able to get the exhibit hall to the west side of Hudson because the streetcar route comes right over that. And if in the future you're going to expand, want to make sure that you don't have to tear up your tracks and spend money to redo that. So that was one of the concerns that was expressed, and this diagram shows how you do that. Emphasis of views from the ballroom and pre-function areas and meeting rooms. There was also some commentary about the size of the lawn in the original diagram, that it was too big, and when you really look at that property, that is a very large lawn. And so there was some interest in trying to minimize the impact of that lawn and create some more interest, and so we've done that. And the other one was that Reno, the building was a little bit too close to Reno, and it didn't seem like there was enough transition space from the vehicles to the building, so we pulled the convention center back on the site in order to allow more comfortable transition. So on with the plans. Again, this is the same site plan, Reno to the north, Boulevard to the south, Robinson to the right, and Hudson to the left. That solid red line now is showing the exhibit space below ground, and as you can see, it goes to the west side of Hudson. Everything else is pretty much in the same place as the other diagram. It's just shifted a little bit. And then there's the plan of the exhibit space, and this hall can now be divided into 3 different halls, which allows simultaneous operation, which is kind of interesting, multiple events. And also, we just take the loading dock that we'd shown in the other diagram and extrude it to provide the support for a larger space here. And you'll see that the loading dock, where it says 300K right there to the left, that is actually also the ramp that comes in off of Walker. And then the mezzanine space that connects the main level to the exhibit hall level. And now we're showing 45,000 square feet of meeting rooms on grade. The facility's been pulled away from Reno a bit, and more entrance lobby space. Another feature to point out is now the lawn that was essentially a big rectangle has now been changed to include more plaza area. Those little areas south of the meeting space we envision as possibly outdoor meeting space, so more revenue generating opportunities. Smaller lawn, but just to put it in perspective, that lawn there is as big, or if not bigger, than the one out in front of Devon Energy right now as we're showing it. So there's plenty of space for people to congregate as well. Still have development opportunity to the south. Mezzanine level, and then an upper ballroom, just the same configuration as the other option, although 5,000 square foot smaller ballroom, and again, pre-function that looks into the city and down the Harvey Spine and into the lawn. Another mezzanine.
If I could just ask a question about the ballroom.
Yeah.
We really didn't talk about that much in the subcommittee meeting, but no concern about shrinking the ballroom by 5,000 feet?
I don't know if you were there at that meeting or not, but where that came from, there was a lot of conversation about the square footage total and how it all got divided up. Mike Carrier had indicated that from his perspective that it would be better to shift the square footage into the meeting space as opposed to the ballroom. And so that's certainly a question we can continue to discuss, since this is very conceptual, to make sure. I mean, we're just trying to keep the square footage intact so the prices didn't continue to escalate.
So we've added, though, even at 30,000 feet, we've added 5,000 more feet than we currently have.
Yes,
Thanks.
that's correct. So it's a bigger ballroom than you currently have.
Okay.
And now, because the ballroom is used less than meeting space, his thought was to put more emphasis on the meeting space and to drive that support.
And I think that's the feedback we've all gotten, is that flexible meeting space is really one of the biggest drivers of
Right.
people using your convention center. So
That's correct.
The follow-up question, 30,000, 26,000, whatever, is sort of an abstract number to me, and I'm trying to picture, compare it to, say, the National Cowboy Museum, that ballroom, or what's at the Cox Center now. I assume this is larger than both, or either of those, significantly larger than either of those.
It's larger. Yeah, it's larger than both.
Do we, like
don't know
the
that.
Cowboy, do we know what the square footage is?
I don't know what the square footage of the Cowboy is. I think this ballroom is
I'm pretty sure it is, but we can
25,000
certainly confirm that. But it's definitely larger than the Cox Center.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can visualize what that space is like, and just trying to get an idea in my head what we're looking
Chart here
at.
shows the Cox Center at 25, this would be at 30.
Right.
And so before, in the previous concept, it was 35, so it was 10,000 more. Mike's view of it was that 5,000 would be best served going into the meeting space, and so we made that shift. Again, you're trading similar cost space from one to the other, so it's not an impact cost-wise.
I would like to comment, FMA, about that meeting space, that right now the largest two venues in Oklahoma City for large events that some national organizations have local chapters would be the Cox Convention Center, and then secondly would be the Cowboy Hall of Fame. And because we have so many events that are becoming large-scale and the opportunity to even bring in more large-scale, many groups are competing for dates on the calendar and having to go 3-4 years. So I think a ballroom of 35, even up to 40,000 square feet is not unheard of for what the market is beginning to demand. So some of those stakeholder groups might look at, or when you're talking to stakeholder groups, talk about some of the things that we're losing now because of that.
Yeah, and we had a lot of conversation with the stakeholder groups about those kinds of things. And of course, when you talk to customers, they want as much space as they possibly can get. So we have the reality of budget that we have got to contend with. But I certainly understand, and you're right. We see a lot. There's much larger ballrooms in this country, but they're also supported by much larger convention centers. So, and this goes in line with what the CSNL report had said as well, in terms of kind of outlining what the spaces, rough sizes should be. So we can still have that conversation, though.
Hey, Todd, on the expanded concept, we're adding 40,000 square feet of rentable area, but almost 90,000 square feet to the total footprint. So where's this other 50,000 square feet?
So that is all the space that supports that space. So it's all of the underground loading dock space that we extrude. It's also the back of house areas that we extrude to support corridors and additional toilets and all those things that support that space. So it's fairly typical, and of course we will work to make it as efficient as possible, but nevertheless that's what it is. Usually it's pretty close to a 50 or a 50-50 split, yeah. Does that answer your question? Okay. Mm-hmm. So
keep in mind again that idea that with the possibility of the 200,000 square feet in the exhibit hall, it could possibly be 3 different large conventions going on at the same time. So that means meeting spaces to accommodate those conventions.
that's a good point.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
What's the difference between if it's B space now and it will become A space? What causes that differentiation?
Oh, it's a lot of different things. Primarily, it has to do with the things that Susan mentioned earlier, is just the right kind of proportion of space, the height, better technology, certainly better technology, less columns, better floor boxes, and that have all your electrical and plumbing and all those sorts of things that support all of your people that use the space. So it's just, and of course it's brighter, better toilets, everything that you can imagine is just better. So, but when it comes to raw space, higher space, less columns, and a lot more attractive for customers.
Yeah, I think that converts into your sales, too. So who you market your space to.
Okay.
I think we might have an answer, a Google answer.
We've got an answer here. Cowboy space is 16,500 square feet. So
Okay,
it'd be
that's
about double
great
that
to
size.
know. That helps.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
I saw Nicole.
Yeah.
I knew she was on it.
She's always on.
Thank you, Nicole.
And Dee, one other thing, it's 50 years newer.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's kind
Well,
of...
that's a good point. Well, and if you get into the detail a little bit, the Cox Center has essentially 80-some thousand square feet of what they call prime space, but by comparison to this, it will be subclass space. And then they have about 20,000 square feet of really not so good space. It's, I think, 12 or 16 feet tall, and it's just not appropriate for the marketplace. So it's time.
Yeah, and Todd, you're going to kind of pull us through that as we go through the rest of this about how we fit in the realm of who we market to.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sure. So we're just about done with the plans here. There's the roof plan, and then sections are the same configuration, exhibit hall below space, below grade meeting space on grade, and then ballroom above for the views. And now the program and cost summary, which I think you'll find interesting. So in the validated concept, the first one we showed you, there's 468,000 square feet of gross space. At this point, since we're not in design, we've got a 5% range of costs that we're looking at. So keep in mind this is very conceptual, but and it's also been escalated to 2016. So there's money in there to accommodate the inflation as it goes. So that means that we're looking at a cost of somewhere between $185 and $192 million for the validated concept, which is within your budget. And then the expanded concept is showing 550,000 gross square feet, and again a 5% range, so it's $221 to $227 million. So there's a cost variance between those two of $30 to $35 million. And clearly, the expanded option is not within your budget. But it does meet your market's needs better. So that's the question you're having to deal with. And I'm happy to take more questions.
Well, it does reduce the square foot cost because we've traded out some space. We've traded out more expensive finished space for
That's good point.
Exhibit space.
Yeah, because ultimately that exhibit space is less dollars per square foot to build, and so there's more of it, but we're not increasing the square footage of the meeting and ballroom space so that the cost per square foot drops proportionally.
Other questions?
Sue, one other question. I know I think our total budget for the convention center is like 250, 252, somewhere in there. How much of that is allocable to the actual construction?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The actual construction budget, if 221 to 227 is over budget, by how much?
David's
32 to 35, and
Yeah.
it's in the range there, but the original budget was roughly $190 million, and then, of course, there's the 1% for art, so the actual construction is a bit under $190 million.
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
So when you look at the range, we're $32 to $35 million and change different.
Yeah.
And one other thing that I did before we made the presentation, we checked in with our cost estimator this last week to make sure that he wasn't seeing anything unexpected in the marketplace that would cause those assumptions for those original cost estimates to be different than what they are. And of course, no one can predict the future, but based on what he's seeing, and they've been around a long time, we're not seeing any huge changes and shifts. I would like to say that, this is a fantastic opportunity every time we look at this thing that you guys are doing here with all the downtown, the district, all the creation of new buildings, and just the development of your city. This convention center will serve as a catalyst for much, much more needed growth. It'll be one of the best things you ever do, and I think you all ought to be really proud of what you're doing. And we appreciate the opportunity to be a part of it.
I have a couple questions, if I may. Great presentation, great
Thank
job
you.
on all the work that you've done.
Thank
I know
you.
this is a huge challenge,
A lot of fun.
especially with projects all around it that are moving at the same time and changing, so hats off to you.
Thank you.
Am I understanding that on the expanded concept, we move the truck dock to Walker?
That's correct.
But on the validated concept, we remain with the truck entrance on Robinson?
It's on, actually, the boulevard, comes off the boulevard.
So it is the boulevard,
Yes.
not Robinson. When we're at 50 feet below ground, does that take us into bedrock?
Yeah.
Okay. And have we, remind me, have we done a site analysis on utilities and
Yeah.
things that are under that?
That was part of the original, when
couldn't
we
recall.
were selected to do the site selection study, we looked at that very closely. We looked at it since then, and yeah, we've gone through all that. We've got documents and show what's going on there.
One of the things that this advisory board had approved on the site selection, there was a caveat that we would still maintain clear visibility from Myriad all the way through the park. And in both scenarios, we're still on that same visual track?
Yeah, in fact, we see it as the spine, you know, the continuation of the spine is really important that we maintain that. And of course, that spine can ebb and flow to create interest for pedestrians, so it's not just like that. It doesn't need to be a rifle shot, but the whole notion is to create a wide enough alleyway there so that there is that visual connection. And also from up above at the ballroom as well, so you can kind of sit up there and see what's going on with the city, both
Be able to see.
directions. Yeah.
You know, when we originally began concepts on the downtown park, Harvey Spine was, at that point, kind of pictured as a very narrow space that when it represented the convention center. But now that we've paid a little bit more attention and maybe actually maintain that Harvey Spine, I'm wondering how you feel about that relationship now to what we're currently showing on the schematic for the downtown park. Do you think we're paying enough homage to that spine, or do we maybe need to relook now at this plan and how that relates and that contiguous element?
We will continue to look at that. Like I said, well, this study that we're doing was a conceptual plan to understand where it should go on the site and how it should be configured, but we haven't got into design on the convention center nor at all in the hotel, so there are a lot of opportunities to enhance that connection.
Right.
And it's one of our principles, so it's not going to be ignored. I mean, in the end, it's not going to just be a little sidewalk that meanders through there. It will be something substantial.
And I believe that. I'm looking at it from the side of the park and going, wow, now that we're seeing this concept, it kind of changes our perspective a little
Sure.
bit more. And so as our plans are being a little bit more developed, I'm wondering if we should maybe step back just a little bit and take a look at some of your concepts so that blending could be a little bit better.
That I would agree. And that's been one of the best things of this whole process. David put together this consultant coordination session periodically so that we could talk to one another and coordinate so that these things weren't happening in a vacuum, and that's been really helpful. One of the best things we can do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Kim, I might add that the subcommittee is very aware that loading ramp does not need to be on the boulevard. So they are committed to helping with that process. And then also that we don't want to cut up Hudson once we get that going. So they're very aware of those things, and hence the enhanced piece has come forward on that design, or the expanded concept.
And just as the same way the Park Subcommittee is really concerned about, okay, what does the boulevard really look like? You know, what type of egress do we need there? How much will the boulevard be used for activities other than automobile traffic? And how much Robinson will be used for activities other than automobile traffic or bikers? And how does that all relate together? And it's just making sure that as we all move forward, oftentimes on the subcommittee level, we don't get to see and hear about all those things. So
Sure.
we're trying to visualize and trying to review and recommend, and just making sure that we're thinking about the whole
Right.
things. Maybe we're over-reviewing at times. I don't know, but we're trying to
More
take our
communication is
charge.
better than none.
I think that's our premise. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So Todd, does this move us into the next, does it increase our ability to bring conventions? And are we moving ourselves on where we are in the Class B, Class A?
Oh, it's good you asked that, because I have some information for all of you in that regard. So right now, I'll try to quickly go through this. If you look at just the exhibit hall component alone, the Cox Center is ranked 13, and I can't recall exactly, but I think it's out of 15 in the competitive set, is 13th. The meeting rooms are square footage alone. It doesn't talk about quality. And of course, there's a big gap there. Meeting room space in the Cox is 11th. and the ballroom is 13th. For an aggregate, if you look at the whole building, it ranks number 12th out of that competitive set. The first concept that I showed you that is within budget and within program moves you from, in the exhibit hall, from 13th to 11th. At meeting room space, keeps you at 11th place. At ballroom space, puts you at 11th place. So we have an aggregate of moving from to 11th place from 12th space. So you move up one spot with the first diagram. And then the expanded one, the exhibit hall moves from 13th to 7th, the meeting rooms from 11th to 7th, the ballrooms from 13th to 8th, and an aggregate of 8th. So overall, you move up into kind of the midpoint of your competitive set.
Todd, if the expanded concept has less ballroom space, how do we move further up the list?
On the other two
I mean,
pieces?
yeah.
Yeah, it's a
It has more space than we currently have.
No, but he's
even
talking
though it's less
about, but he said with the validated concept, you were going to go to 11th.
Yeah.
And so now you've got
you're-
less with the
you're right.
expanded, so how do you go
There's
up
an-
to 8th?
I think that might be flipped. I think you're right. I need to go verify that.
Well, it
My
might be,
mistake. No, long and short of it is, the aggregate, you move up to 8th place. And that's what the competition, the competitive set, all your marketers look at. So when Mike Carrier's looking at that, he's thinking, well, if we can move up to the 8th place, we're going to be able to attract more events and a greater variety of customers. That's the bottom line. But I'll verify that for you.
Does moving us to 12th do anything competitively?
Not much, because we're already in the lower 25%, so
You're moving up quality-wise, but not...
you're moving up quality. There's no question about that, and you will have all these other amenities around you that you currently don't have. So there's something to be said for that, no question about it.
I know it's very subjective, but those quality things and whatever else is going on in the city, where do you think that puts us in terms of rank, just in terms of attractability, if you will, to a convention here?
Well, it's hard to say, because that is very subjective, because every city brings their own unique qualities to the marketplace. I can tell you, coming from Kansas City, that before the Sprint Center and all the entertainment district was built there, it would have launched you way beyond them. But everybody, all the competitive set, they're doing things to improve their position in the marketplace. To some degree, you have to do it to keep your own, but also you have to do it to get more competitive, move yourself up in the market.
And critical to this will also be the hotel, because we can have a beautiful convention center, but if we do not have the rooms to accommodate those persons who would come to the city, that's very difficult. And that's something I'm just recently experiencing is with one organization that's looking at bidding to come to Oklahoma City.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah, I, for one, though, I'm the Kevin Costner view that if we build it, they will come. That's right.
I'll second that.
Todd, I had another question.
Yeah.
I think Sue mentioned Hudson, going under Hudson. One of the reasons we're proposing, I guess, to go under Hudson now is in relation to the streetcar route. I guess the streetcar is designed to be on Hudson. So you're thinking, rather than having to tear it up later, to go under Hudson, let's do it now.
That's correct.
That's one of the concepts of the expanded. But the timing-wise, the convention center construction's after the streetcar anyway, isn't it? So are you now suggesting that we move up the convention center?
Well, I'm not
over the
responsible
streetcar?
for the schedule, but I think they're close enough in terms of how they coincide that that's certainly something that we could be talking about, and David could probably talk about that more clearly than I can.
That's right. There's no need to worry about schedule right now. And ADG is helping us look into the scheduling issues with everything that's going on, so it's not a major
The
concern. right
convention construction schedule would coordinate with the streetcar schedule.
now. Absolutely, yeah.
And then I guess the other question I had kind of goes back to the comment on the hotel. I know that's not a MAPS project, but we certainly keep talking about the hotel and how important the hotel is. So who is addressing the hotel? Is that something that the Alliance is doing? I mean, what's going on there, and are we coordinated so construction of those two things are in sync?
The Alliance is working on that. Kathy O'Connor's office has engaged a series of consultants to provide us with some studies. We had a presentation about the sort of financial feasibility of it recently and the different models that other cities have used to finance it, ranging from no help at all to, owning the hotel. There are lots of different options. I think we've got some consultants coming into town in the next couple of weeks to kind of update us on where we are on that process. So the Alliance is
I just wasn't sure.
working. And the idea would be to dovetail those things to the best of our abilities.
I have a question. The resolution that is in front of us today asks us to recommend to the City Council that they consider the expanded version, and from a purely abstract position, I would strongly favor that. But what are the funding options if the expanded version goes beyond what our MAPS budget is? What are the opportunities that the City Council is going to have to consider for funding that?
Well, this is very similar to what some of the other subcommittees have done, and they're just sending a recommendation on up to council, saying that we would like to look at this, much like...
It's a problem to figure out, we want to do this.
Well, I don't know that it's a problem, but it's something that City Council makes the decision on. So, like the sidewalks subcommittee said, we'd really like to do some more sidewalks, and because of the excess collections, they were able to allocate that. So I think this is, again, just a subcommittee saying we would like to do this and making them aware of that.
Okay. Maybe it's a question to Meg. Is there any opportunity to expand MAPS for a year and provide more funds?
I'm not answering that question. Remember, I'm one of 9 too. We have a budget in place, and we know what the budget is for the convention center. I've looked at today's vote as really, truly, essentially just validating a concept that says this works on this site, and it works in 2 forms. It works in one that is within the current budget as we see it, and there is an opportunity to do some expansion in coordination with some of the other projects, if we see that those dollars are available.
So if we recommend the expanded version, we're not derelict in our duty simply because we don't have a plan to fund it.
I think that's a fair comment. I mean, I really think, as David said, other committees, have also said we have something we could do if we had additional dollars. Okay. And so I think that's what this committee would be saying, is if it's an option, we would do that. And that certainly doesn't commit the council to saying we're at a place where we're ready to spend any of those additional dollars.
Right.
I think the committee also has the mindset that we've studied this, and now we've done this additional study through Populous, and we now have more information than we had before, and we really want to make sure that when we build it right. And we know the enhanced is over budget, but we know the reasons for doing it, or requesting it.
Right.
And originally, there was $30 million in the convention center budget that was moved aside because of the nature that it was actually possibly calculated for moving the OG&E substation, which that's not underway at this time. So there is still money that the council can look at all within MAPS, but we can extend the MAPS. I mean, that was voted as a 7-year date to date, so.
Right. David, could you just remind us again of when we break ground and then the projected timeline for the convention center being open?
The beginning of construction will be in the first or second quarter of 2016. I believe it's the first, and then the opening is scheduled to be in about the middle of 2019. I'm sorry, the first of 2019.
So that just kind of puts it in perspective again. Yeah. And it's, Mike Carrier as soon as we have a design, will be selling for us? Great questions. Any other? So you have the resolution with the
revised resolution.
The revised resolution in front of you that says the MAPS 3 Convention Site Evaluation Facility Programming and Conceptual Design Report, Project M3-C003 be approved, and a preference of the expanded concept be considered. I move approval of it. Can I do that in my chair? Really? Carol? Maybe not.
Since you have both of them, excuse me, since you have both of them in front of you, I would request that you speak on the first one first and not accept it if that's what you want to do, and then go to the second one.
So can we strike the fifth one, or we reject
I
the
move we
original?
reject the first
Okay.
Yes, you can do that.
All right,
resolution.
Bob has moved that we reject the first one, and second by Gloria. Any further discussion on that? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
That motion is passed. Now, you have the amended resolution in front of you.
I move we approve the amended resolution.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That resolution has been approved. Item number 6, recommend resolution approving the amendment number 1 to the contract for engineering services with MacArthur Associate Consultants LLC for MAPS 3 Trail Phase 2 Trail Improvements, I-44 West Trail, Northwest Grand Boulevard, Northwest 50th Street to Northwest Grand Boulevard, Northwest 19th Street, along the I-44 corridor, fee increase of $221,254, project M3-T002.
Madam Vice Chair, if you recall, last month, MacArthur gave us a presentation on the I-44 corridor trail, and council subsequently approved that, and now we're going into the design phase. So MacArthur Associated Consultants will do approximately 1/3 of the design of that trail, and then what you have following this is 2 more, which are the other 2/3 of the trails. These have gone through the usual consultant selection, and I'll answer any questions you might have on this.
Same?
I would just add that we discussed these yesterday at the Trails and Sidewalk Subcommittee meeting, and we were all unanimously recommend that they come forward to the board.
Are these the same contractors who've been working on the other trail projects?
No, MacArthur is the one that did the study. The other engineers that did the river trail was not MacArthur, or, well, was not any of these. No, these are different engineers.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay. Item number 7, recommend resolution approving the contract engineering services with Johnson & Associate Incorporated for MAPS 3 Trail Improvement Phase 2, Project 1, I-44 West Trail from North Meridian, Northwest Expressway to Northwest Grand Boulevard, Northwest 50th Street, fee of $221,200, project M3-T002A.
This is the same as what I just mentioned. This is approximately the north 1/3 that Johnson will be designing. It will be in line with the alignment study that was approved by council recently.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Resolution is approved. Number 8, recommend resolution approving contract for engineering services with MKEC Engineering Incorporated for MAPS 3 Trail Improvement Phase 2 Project 3-I-44 West Trail from Northwest Grand Boulevard, Northwest 19th to North May Avenue, Oklahoma River. Fee of $217,887, project M3-T002B.
And continuing on, this is the south third of that same trail.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. The resolution's approved. Item 9, recommend resolution approving amendment number 2 for MAPS 3, Phase 1, Project 1, sidewalk improvement decrease of $157,109.24, accepting the project and placing the maintenance bond into effect. Project M3-W001.
This is Project 1 of Phase 1 for the sidewalks, and the reason it's an amendment is because in the contract, we have specific line items for quantities and items, and they're measured as we go along, and we pay for quantities that are put in place. This project was finished. We used less materials than was in the plans, so that's why we have a decrease. And as we discussed in the subcommittee meeting, that this money will stay within the sidewalks program. We'll roll it into one of the other projects, and we'll continue to use this money to extend sidewalks. So we're very happy that we've completed this Project 1 sidewalk project.
I have just one quick comment that for those people who might be concerned about how money is watched, showing that we're accepting and receiving a credit of $75 out of this entire scope really proves how hard staff is working diligently on behalf of the public for every 1 cent that's collected. So thank you.
I guess it's just important to remind everybody that we do have a priority of sidewalks already in place. So as we are able to come in under budget and save those dollars, we know exactly where we're going to continue to go moving forward.
This effectively turns the project over to the city.
It does. It ends the construction process.
Okay. Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Resolution approved. Number 10, item 10, recommend resolution approving amendment number 3 for MAPS 3, Phase 1, Project 2, sidewalk improvement, decrease of $45,525.54, accepting the project and placing the maintenance bond into effect. Project M3-W001A.
And continuing on similarly, this is Project 2 of Phase 1, and also we have a decrease in quantities, $45,525. So we're happy that we finished this second project, and this money also will stay within the project, the sidewalk projects, and will continue to be used for sidewalks.
I move that we accept the resolution.
Further discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Resolution approved. Number 11, recommend joint resolution accepting the project for MAPS 3, Oklahoma State Fair, Phase 1, Project 2, parking lot improvements, and placing the maintenance bond into effect. Project M3-F001A /WC-0805/SC-0897.
So this is a fairgrounds project that we have completed also. So today is a day for completions. Project 2 is the parking lot project that was done out at the fairgrounds. So it has been inspected, and everybody agrees that it is final and complete. I'll answer any questions that you might have. Well, we actually, there was, last month we did the change order and amendment last month, so this is the final.
I think it's great that we're, like you said, signing off on projects. This is showing progress, that we're getting things done, and it feels good. I move approval.
Just to give a big picture from the Fairgrounds Committee, this is the completion of Phase 1, which had 2 projects, the grading and leveling of the area where the grandstand had been, and then putting in the parking lot. parking lot was used at the State Fair and apparently supported all of the equipment, no problems with the construction. It's been inspected and approved. That completes Phase 1. We're moving on to the Expo building.
Great.
Was it completed
Do we-
when, oh, sorry.
Okay, we have a motion on the table? And a second. Any further
I
discussion?
was just going to ask how it compared to the timeline expectation. Was it on time in terms of expectations?
I think so. There were some slight delays, but it got done in time for the fair, which...
It was. There was some weather issues, and then there were some additions and some unexpected things, but for the most part, it was completed in time.
Great. Ready for a vote? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. New business.
We don't have anything.
Thank you. MAPS 3 Citizen Advisory Board Subcommittee reports. Do we have any subcommittee reports? Additional comments?
Streetcar didn't meet, but today, this afternoon, I think Dave will mention it too, we have the pre-bid meeting for everybody who's interested in the RFP for the vehicles, and I think that'll be available online, but I'll leave that up to David to let us know about that detail. But nothing else to report.
Just one other footnote on the fairgrounds. I'm not sure the exact date, but I think sometime next month we'll have the groundbreaking there for the Expo Center. So it's designed and we're ready to move forward with construction.
Also like to add there's a groundbreaking on October 20th at 4 p.m. for the Whitewater. So that's a really, really big thing for our committee. So we hope you'll all be there.
And I guess I'll mention, and I'm sorry I don't know the exact title, but Mike mentioned that there was an event this weekend at the facility and another one next week.
Next week, yes.
Two fairly large events going on down there, and I'm sorry I don't recall exactly what they are.
This weekend is the International Canoe Competitions, and I think we have 25 countries represented. The next one is 40-something, 25 different countries represented. He said and I hope everybody will go down to the river. It feels a little like the Olympics. People are speaking in all sorts of foreign languages, and they've been extremely complimentary of not just the facilities, but everything that downtown has to offer. Lots of people are using the canal extension underneath I-40, and I guess lots of people have wished they decided to stay downtown because of the easy access. So that's going very well. And next week is the head of the Oklahoma. I think this is the 10th anniversary. So here we have over 40 collegiate teams. USC is coming for the first time. Harvard's coming back. They've been here for all 10 years. And so the river will be awash with college kids next weekend. But take advantage of both of those opportunities.
Other comments?
The Parks Subcommittee did not meet this month. Hargraves continues on design, and certainly all the subcommittee members are absorbing as much as we see around us to keep going forward.
Great. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to informational items. David?
You have in your packet some informational items, and these are right-of-way parcels that were processed and accepted through council, and these are all for Phase 2, Project 1 sidewalks.
Questions for David on that? How about item 15, update status of MAPS 3 program?
I do have some additional updates here on the river. The Phase 2 improvements still are under construction, and as has been mentioned, the Whitewater facility will begin soon, along with that change order today. Senior Wellness Centers 1 and 2 are both in design and well underway and going well, and hope that you'll see something here soon. I know that the subcommittee has seen some preliminary design work. Trails and Sidewalks, Phase 1 sidewalk projects 1 and 2 are complete as you approved today. Phase 1 Project 3 is under construction. Phase 1 Trails Project 1 and 2 are under construction. Phase 2 Project 1 Sidewalks is under construction. Phase 3 Sidewalks is in design. And then Phase 2 Trails, it will be in design soon with the contracts that you guys approved today will go on to council. Convention Center, as you saw, the conceptual design is complete and design will soon begin on that. Fairgrounds, as was mentioned, the new parking was used for the fair in the last last couple of weeks, and reports are that it performed well. And the expo building has begun. The design continues, and coordination of utility relocation is underway. Streetcar preliminary design is underway, and as Mr. Harding mentioned, the streetcar RFP has been advertised, and what we call the pre-bid or the pre-proposal meeting is today at 1 o'clock. And we expect a good attendance. We expect not only local attendance, but also national and international attendance, and that's why we've gone to great lengths to get phone lines and computer lines and everything up so that people can attend this. So we're very excited about that.
How can I log on to, I won't be able to be there in person, but can't we view it online as well?
Yes, there'll be a WebEx conference, and if you get with Brent after this, he'll help you out. That's all I have.
Great. Comments by board members?
Just a question. Oh, I've taken off my mic. Where will the pre-bid session be today?
For the streetcar, it will be on the 4th floor at 420 West Main, which is where our offices are, but it's in the conference room that is operated by the water department, so it'll be across the hallway. It's where we've had the wellness center meetings.
And David, if I could, I just, as we always try to do, I just want to thank staff, I want to thank ADG, everybody that's participated. These meetings, the subcommittee meetings are hard, and then this gathering, at large is very complicated. We've got difficult budget issues that we're working through and so many competing needs, and I just continue to be so grateful for the commitment of all the citizens and everybody that's working on this to deliver what we promised we would deliver. We're working really hard on quality, and we're a little bit in the process of making sausage, and it doesn't look pretty all the time, but we still have a long timeline ahead of us to work through some of the challenges that we're facing, and I feel really good about the direction in which we're all trying to move as individual subcommittee members and then collectively as a body that brings recommendations forward to the council. So thank you, everybody.
Great. Any other comments? Just a moment, please. Could we hold that for just a minute? Are there any staff members that have comments or citizens? Thank you. Okay. And we have a motion and a second. All in favor of adjourn? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.